Welcome to another episode of Times and Tides. So, Uma, I think we'll move on to the next crop, something that actually I love the most. Sugarcane.
Sugarcane.
By presenting this cane to you, I would appreciate if you can now perhaps start speaking on how sugarcane has changed the slavery system all over the world, led to the movement of people across the world. Let me start asking you this following question. I remember you telling me that sugarcane served as a kind of double-edged sword in terms of its, impact on the human. But keeping that aside, we'll come to that little later. When did the sugar actually began to be consumed by the people? Because it's not, common extract from the plants.
See, this, like many other species that we talked of this morning, the early history of sugarcane also is quite grey. But it's believed that India was the first country to have dealt with the sugar that we know today. It is the refined sugar, which is
Sugar or jaggery?
Sugar also,
Okay.
jaggery as well.
Okay.
But India, as I mentioned, was the first country in the world to have extracted juice out of this cane
And converted
and converted it into jaggery
sweet.
and then to sugar.
Okay.
So the crystalline sugar.
And how many years back?
The dates are about 3,000 years before present. And
How do we know? Natesh, you have any idea when?
See,
and how?
sugar cane has been known in India for a very long time.
Mhm.
It has been mentioned in many of our Vedic or Puranic times. In Sanskrit, it was called Ikshu.
Okay.
Ikshudanda means this sugar cane,
Okay. Okay.
And it is also very dear to certain gods. For example, Ganesh is supposed to be very fond of this. And when you worship Ganesh, it's one of the musts that you must offer
And
to.
Sankranti also.
Sankranti
Generally,
it's a harvest festival.
Okay.
So it is in our culture, it is in our religion, it is with our gods. So
When you say it was called Ikshwaku, about how
no,
many
no,
years?
Ikshu.
Sorry, Ikshu.
Ikshu.
About how many years back perhaps that mention is being found?
See,
Sugarcane
in
it
the
is, right?
Ramayana, this dynasty to which Rama belonged was called Ikshwaku Vamsha or dynasty.
Yeah.
Why was it called Ikshwaku? The first king in that dynasty was called Ikshwaku. And he was called Ikshwaku because it is mentioned somewhere that these kings actually were planters and cultivators and perhaps extractors of the
sugar.
juice and jaggery
I see.
from this.
Acha.
Some of the famous Ikshwaku kings that we all know through our common knowledge of our culture is, of course, Dasharatha, who is Rama's father, and Rama himself. They were also called Suryavamshis because that's another name for them. Harishchandra was an Ikshwaku dynasty person.
Okay.
Bhagiratha was an Ikshwaku dynasty person.
Okay.
There was another man called Sagara. And one interesting thing about him is that it seems he had 2 wives and 60,001 children. I wonder how he managed to do that. So these are all very famous people.
yeah.
So you told around 2,500 years
Say
ago.
maybe 3,000.
Let us
Now, since Dr. Natesh mentions that it's also mentioned in our ancient texts, so it's in a way
It's all right.
calibrates.
It's all right.
Yeah.
So that is the time 2,500 years ago you told sugar was being used or extracted.
Sugar was extracted. So, quite clearly, as you mentioned, sugarcane itself may have been in India for many, many years earlier.
That brings me to another question.
Yeah.
Does it mean the sugarcane originated in India?
No, not the cultivated sugarcane, though we have some sort of, should I say, the wild species of sugarcane. So, the cultivated sugarcane is said to have originated in New Guinea, the Polynesian group of islands, especially New Guinea. And it is believed that the sugarcane sets, the small pieces of sugarcane which have this buds here, may have been floated ashore in the sea and reached the shores of China and India. So these two countries were the first, probably the big land masses that got the sugarcane from Polynesian island. And it's not very important just to get, but also to know how to use it. And that is where probably India, got the first hand on that in terms of knowing the value of the sugarcane and the sweetness of the juice, and then slowly, of course, converting into whatever we call jaggery.
I remember to have read somewhere that Chinese were using it as an aphrodisiac, the cane itself. Yeah,
Right.
is that true?
Absolutely. According to the sources, Chinese did not yet know, in fact, much later they came to know about the sugar that could be made from the juice. They were using sugarcane mostly as an aphrodisiac and maybe as a sort of, just as a sweetening stuff by biting on that. So the art of making sugar went back to China about
From India.
from India. About now maybe about 2,000 years back. So it is quite recent in that way. Whereas in China, whereas in India, the art of using sugarcane was really very old. In fact, the entire domestication of sugarcane dates to about 8 to 10,000 years before present.
That's
So-
in the Polynesian islands.
Yeah, in the Polynesian island.
Okay.
And from there it may have come.
Just a
Yeah.
question. So the sugarcane originated in the Polynesian islands, but they did not know how to prepare
No.
sugar
no,
out of it.
No.
Surprising.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Acha.
So once it landed in India and sort of was used extensively, so much so as you mentioned, it's also penetrated into our religious. When you mentioned Lord Ganesha, now if you have to date Lord Ganesha, how many years back would you date?
Ganesha is not very old. Actually, it's around 5th century AD. But Rama, that is the origin of Rama. And yeah.
So even if you do that, it's around 3, 4, 5,000, not more than that, right?
Okay.
So we can comfortably say that we have been having sugarcane and its use in our country for the last 5,000 years.
Okay.
And then 2,000 years later, that is 3,000 years before present, we knew the art of making all of that. And we became probably the masters in refining. Some of the oldest refineries that refine sugarcane into what I call the white sugar, besides the jaggery, was done up here. Now, after it was here, the time came for it to move. Should I say?
Before that, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This is the sugar that we now take for pleasing our tongue.
Yes.
Correct? But before that, man did not require sugar. He was deriving whatever the energy source. Sugar is the energy source. Just you have something to add, Natesh? Yeah.
They knew,
Who knew?
Indians and the Westerners, honey. was the
Oh yes,
sweetening agent.
I agree. But even honey or sugar is not directly required for our energy requirement because we were deriving it from the plant sources. Correct.
But they knew about this.
That's okay. But the moment they began to use honey or sugar, which is actually the source of the sucrose, we became addicted to that. Correct?
Correct.
Isn't that dangerous actually? That is the step itself seems to be a dangerous step because we know today that sugar has now caused so much of problems on the human populations.
See, to address this question, I will now again contrast it with opium and then sugar. Sugar is an energy-giving compound.
Exactly.
Opium is not.
Not.
Opium is addictive in a different manner. The metabolic pathway through which it is addictive is
Extremely
something
different.
completely different compared to this one. Having said that, there's a very, I would say, nice quote on this one. In opium, the consumers of opium became addicted to opium, and of course, the devastation set forth. Here, it is not as much the consumers, not as much the sort of consumers that get addicted in the manner that they are affected by opium. What happens is they set in a whole bunch of metabolic diseases across the human civilization. The famous Israeli author Yuval Harari, right?
Yeah, Yuval Harari. Yeah.
He says that there's no other compound that has changed the diet and the health of US, North America, as much as sugar. Sugar is the sort of silent bomb that is so,
The white killer.
the white killer.
Yeah.
And so in a way it is addictive, but not in a manner that is done by opium.
True. The reason I'm asking that question is because sugar is in some sense addictive, because it is now problematic, it was discovered in India. I'm only trying to say that this whole process of addiction to sugar and the problems that follow up with the sugar seem to have its origin in India. Am I correct? The addiction and the follow up.
May I add something here? See, opium induces slowing or putting to sleep the brain centers that control breathing.
Okay.
Okay? Taken in excess, opium kills by depressing respiration.
Okay.
Sugar doesn't do any of those.
True, but it kills later. Diabetes and all that.
So
Diabetes
those are slow process.
Exactly.
In
In fact, invisible. To the
Yeah,
extent
but that was not evident.
it's okay. Yeah.
But
in a
also,
Yeah.
diabetes is where pancreas doesn't function properly to digest your sugar.
Try fine. Yeah.
So it is not caused by sugar.
The point is,
Go ahead.
let me mention this, Ganesha. The point is, when we talk about addiction and its devastating consequences, in the case of opium, it's, in 5 days that you're going downhill. In sugar, it may take 25 years to know. And so, to the extent
I
that we are
agree, but
equating this
let me now tell you why I'm perhaps raising this point. Unlike opium, perhaps the entire human population is addicted to sugar. In that sense, the impact of the sugar addiction is much more, widespread and prevalent. In that sense, I am now trying to refer to.
with you, we have a sweet tongue. In fact, probably it is for reasons which are very basic and probably evolutionarily ingrained. When we talk about getting addicted, I'm using your word as the addicted to sugar. I'm addicted to sugar just because of my evolutionary sort of quenching of my energy requirements. It's the fastest source of energy that you can ever get.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that context, I think it was no surprise that civilizations, people all over the world.
Yeah, the reason I raised that issue, Uma, is because in my view, it is that addictive process of humans that probably led to the other consequences of what happened with the human populations, in migration or whatever it is of the sugar. And that was the reason why I mentioned.
Possibly so.
It's our weakness to sugar that led to. So the point here is, should we now attribute all that we are now going to discuss in the next 5 minutes to the sugarcane or to our weakness to the sugar? That was my point.
Surely the craving for sugar is what probably promoted or accelerated the travel of sugarcane from India after it had moved from Polynesia to the rest of the world.
Now let us talk on the travel now. Yeah. So it went from India to?
From Polynesia it came to India. And for the next 2000 years, sugarcane traveled all the way westwards.
Achha.
And so it was a slow and steady sort of progression towards west until of course it hit the South America and the Caribbean.
The New World.
So how did it move? Now again there are some sort of versions of the story. One is that it was now taken from India through the Muslim traders, the Arab traders into Middle East and parts of Middle East, Egypt, and as far as the Mediterranean. And then sort of, because sugarcane, by the way, is a crop which requires humidity, a good amount of sunlight and all of that to grow.
And water.
And water, of course.
They took sugarcane or sugar?
Sugarcane.
Okay.
I'm talking about the sugarcane cultivation.
Followed, yeah.
All the way to Spain, the Canary Islands in Spain. And thereafter you have the Atlantic Ocean. So it stopped short there. So this was... as it was going across all of this, people from all this tract, they now learned to make sugar, refined sugar and all. So the sugarcane, as the sugarcane moved,
along with that,
the sugar processing industry's technology also moved. And in fact, very fascinating history about, in fact, the evolution of the entire process of machining sugar out of the sugarcane. Now comes a twist in the tale. How did it cross the Atlantic? Now it reached till the Canary Islands, short of the Atlantic or the group of islands there. And how did it span the Atlantic to go over to South America? So one of the suggestions, one of the reports are that our great friend Christopher Columbus, whom we have not spoken so far this morning,
Yes.
was also very, very instrumental in many plants. But coming to sugarcane, apparently transferred sugarcane from the Canary Islands all the way to Haiti in the Caribbean. But we know that Christopher Columbus picked up the sugarcane, not visiting India, but the sugarcane that came from India that landed into
Europe.
Canary Islands.
I see. Okay.
But strangely, in all of this sugarcane that was migrating westward from India to all of these places was our sugarcane,
I see.
and a variety of our sugarcane.
A variety of.
A variety of the sugarcane domesticated in Polynesia that came in here, but maybe got improvised by selection and all of that stuff. And that was one of the high yielding and sweetest of the sugarcane. That sugarcane was called the Puri sugarcane.
Wow, wow, wow. Let me stop you here. I remember that this Puri sugarcane is also the source that led to the discovery of sugar along the banks of the Ganges, somewhere around Bihar. Is that okay? Correct? Yeah.
But the Puri sugarcane, though it sort of was cultivated extensively in the country, owes its origin to the state of Odisha, Puri.
Okay, okay, Puri. Yeah.
And so that's where it locks
I
in.
see. Okay.
And so probably they called it Puri after Puri.
Okay, after the Puri Jagannath Puri. Okay.
So this Puri one went all the way from India to all these places, and Columbus actually got hold of the Puri variety cultivated in the Canary Islands and took it to the Caribbean.
Caribbean. Okay.
So in the Caribbean, what happened? So this you can now date. Columbus went around 1490 and thereabout.
Yeah.
1492 to 97 or
Yeah.
something, where he
Some
made
period.
4 voyages.
4 voyages. Yeah.
So during that period, this sort of was translocated, so to say, across the Atlantic.
The ironic thing is, Columbus went in search of India and carried the Puri variety of sugar cane from India without knowing that it has come from India, and carried
He
it to
was
another
actually looking for India.
and went to another place which you called as India.
So instead,
wrongly called
he
India.
wanted to
Okay.
go
And
to
he
the East
believed that
Indies.
it was
It
India.
was India. Yeah.
He wanted to go to the East Indies, but landed into the West Indies.
West Indies.
And the rest of his history, as we know.
Okay.
But 3 things happened there. One is by this time, the Spaniards, the Portugal, and our famous friend, the British.
British.
These
okay.
3 are the sort of notorious
competitors.
competitors, got
Okay.
into this entire
Yeah.
business of sugarcane. The Portuguese introduced that to Brazil. The Spanish to some parts of South America. And the British went on to the Caribbean islands, Jamaica, Trinidad, and all of that stuff.
Okay.
And looked for marshy places in all of these places, because sugarcane needs lots of water. And all of these places, by the way, again, as I told, these guys were perfect matchmakers in terms of where to take the plants to.
The habitat location.
Habitat location. And they found that all of these places that I just now mentioned are perfect habitats for sugarcane. Sugarcane had not seen, or these lands had not seen sugarcane before that.
Before Columbus.
You don't have wild species of sugarcane either in all of that. So the area was great. Someone had to cultivate it. Now there were no one there to cultivate.
Whites don't cultivate.
Whites don't anyway cultivate. So this marked.
And one, I think I remember again, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Apparently these people, European people, wanted to employ locals for cultivation, but they were escaping from them and they were hiding. I've heard...
First of all, the population there were also very small. Second, they did not know what and how to cultivate all of that. And sugarcane, is a very, very, I should say, intense drudgery crop to now grow. So they needed people to do that. This is where I would say one of the most important turning point in the history of human slavery began. And that was of taking people from West Africa to populate these farms that they were now planting in all of these 3 places that I mentioned.
Okay.
It is estimated that starting in the about 1500s or so, about 12 to 13 million slaves from West Africa were imported into these places. And this great transatlantic slavery mentions about 12 to 13 million. We don't have numbers of how many perished in this on the way. How many sort of fell ill, and the whole sorts of calamity. But then this is probably one of the largest displacement of labor force to tend to the plantation of sugarcane in the New World. In fact, very after this became a so-called well-oiled machine by all of these colonizers, a very nice name was given to all of this thing called the slavery triangle, or the whatever.
I also think it's called the trade triangle.
Trade triangle of sugarcane. The trade triangle basically is the triangle that connects the South America to Europe and then to the West African coast.
Okay, this is it.
So from West Africa, you would have slaves taken to the New World, the Caribbean, and from the South America, you have goods taken to Europe, and from there you get all the processed material and other stuff to the West African place. So this was a well-oiled system, catering to the sugarcane requirements of the world. And they became big exporters.
Yeah, Natesh, you have something to tell?
Weren't the Dutch more involved in the slave trade? They were the ones who supplied the trade, caught them from African shores, and they were involved much more in the slave trade. Others have also done it. But
yes. Dutch were also there, instrumental in that. Now, when all of this was happening, surely enough, the sweetness, the story associated with sugarcane spread bitterness and misery in all of the people that were affected here. And what happened?
12 million people were shifted from South Africa to West Africa to South America. Yeah. That is Caribbean islands and all that. And that would have not only altered the demography of the people from Africa to America, but might have also now changed culture and a lot.
Absolutely. Once you are displaced, and this displacement is not temporary, forever. So there will have been expectedly a lot of cultural chaos there. New sort of systems in place, new sort of habits coming in, the dietary sort of changes, a whole bunch of, it's like completely a different pot in which you...
So can we now then say that slavery actually was started because of the sugarcane cultivation, or slavery was independently there?
All this transatlantic slavery that we are talking about now was primarily motivated by sugarcane cultivation. Now, I'm not saying slavery was not involved for other things. For example,
but not in that scale.
Yeah, not in that scale.
Okay.
Cotton in North America, largely sort of by slave trade. But since we're not talking about cotton now, sugarcane is one of the most important. That sort of, in fact, after all of this, probably the momentum set by sugarcane cultivation and the slave trade brought in the legislation against slave trade sometime in 1805 and 1806. 1805 in Britain or whatever, and 1806 in USA. But it took another 30 years for it to actually be passed as a legislation to be enacted. So as far as 1838, beginning from 1500, you had the slave trade going on.
Okay.
Finally, I think at around 1830s, I don't remember exactly, 1835 or whatever, the slave trade was put in place, and countries like Britain could no longer employ slave trade to nourish their farms.
We will come back to again the slavery here. Yeah. So because of the sugarcane cultivation, slaves were taken in there. I remember again sometime back when I was discussing with you, referring that some music also evolved in these islands with these the Africans singing to now kill their pain of drudgery and all that while working. Yeah.
You mentioned about jazz and...
yes, blue music. Yeah. And so in other words, the present day jazz and blue is a result of this drudgery that's...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What other such changes have come about in the culture of the South African and... incidentally, I'm sorry, were there any Indian slaves also there?
No. Indians were not in the slave trade. But what happened is, after the abolition of the slave trade, in 1830s.
Uh-huh.
Now, Britain, especially Britain, did not now have anyone to work on their farms, or they could not replace or get fresh recruits into the farm.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell a little bit about the recruitment program itself.
Plans. Okay.
And so what happened? They turned to India
Uh-huh.
at around 1850s
For human labor.
for human labor.
Uh-huh.
These were not called slaves, they were indentured laborers from different parts of India, mostly from Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and even
Tamil Nadu.
I see.
So these indentured laborers were now sent to replace or to have a fresh recruitment into the plantations that were thriving in the Caribbean island. So that is where Mauritius, to Fiji Islands, where they sort of sent in the Indian people. And so today you have a thriving diaspora of the people that were all because of the trade, because of the labor force that the British wanted to tend to their sugarcane plantation.
Okay.
Now, since you asked me, now having gone there, so the date line is between 1850s to 1917, when India, not India, the British Empire had to now sort of, due to resistance, force this indentured labor also. 1917 is probably the Champaran year, right? The same year. So this act came, and so they could no longer take in any indentured labor. So between 1815 and 1970, we had shiploads of people moving to all of these places. I don't know what's the number of the diaspora that is there in this world, in the different colonies that were established there.
Such labor has been also used for other crops. Indian indentured labor, for example, rubber plantations in
Yes.
many of these places, Malaysia, Myanmar, which is then called Burma, and many of these Burma.
And you told
Lots of
cotton
people
also.
from Tamil Nadu were taken. Chettiars. Today they have become landowners, but at that time they were all indentured labor.
Okay.
Rubber plantations, they were.
Yeah, rubber had another big,
It's
movement
another
of people.
story,
But
which
there
is
seems
not
to be a
relevant.
common pattern here. That is, discover a new plant, cultivate it in another place. You don't have labor there, so shift from wherever it is available, punish them and put them into hard situation, make market out of it and survive.
Absolutely. I think
seems
this
to
has been replete with all of these crops that we have been talking about since morning. And it was no different for sugarcane. Now, since
Yeah, Latesh, you have
The
something to say?
other reason for bringing in slaves into India was through the Indian Ocean trade route. And these came not for crops necessarily. They came as, people who were mercenaries. They joined these armies of Muslim kings and others.
Okay.
And some came as domestic servants. The Portuguese have themselves brought people as slaves. And I know one case where they even brought some Japanese slaves
I see.
to India.
I see.
And we don't know what happened to them now. I haven't been able to trace the history.
Okay.
But many of these have come for other reasons also.
One such group is what we call Siddhis today in
Siddhis
Karnataka.
are the result of this mercenaries
Yeah.
and
War-
it's a very
war-
yeah.
for army
imports.
purpose or protection
The
purpose.
other reason they were brought was mainly women. Many of this because of the caste system in India. When you import women from Africa, you can use them as concubines.
Okay.
The caste, people. If you go out of the caste system, the Africans don't fall into this. So your name is not sullied.
Okay.
Okay.
So coming back to this, so
Yeah, so what happened in the due course of all of this stuff, especially with reference to Indian people moving into all of this
Diaspora, yeah.
diaspora. So they assimilated, maybe they amalgamated. There is a fusion of the culture between the Indian and the West Indian.
can you give some examples of
For
that?
example, in the Caribbean, I don't know which island, Kingston, Jamaica, one of those places, you had a large migration of people from Bihar.
Okay.
So they established the Bhojpuri sort of culture there.
I see.
So if you go to those places today, Bhojpuri is the language spoken
Okay.
there.
In West Indies.
Yeah, West Indies, right. Now, if you went into Fiji Island, you would have Tamilians there. And of course, coexisting with people who went from UP.
Okay.
But then
Mauritius.
Mauritius.
Bihar
One thing
people
I
are-
forgot in all of these countries, South Africa. Now, the British moved indigent Indian laborers to South Africa. So, Durban, which I think is largely populated by Tamil, is because of that movement for sugarcane cultivation. So, it's in some way, all of them today who are existing there have been victims of a historical.
Are there relics of this our own culture or literature going there?
There is a well-known sort of story about the Caribbean Ramayana.
Uh-huh.
Ramayana.
Caribbean Ramayana.
Caribbean Ramayana. It's called Caribbean Ramayana,
Uh-huh.
where instead of Ravana,
Uh.
often they also put the white man, the overseer or the supervisor, the plantation guy,
The bad guy.
the bad guy, as a Ravan.
Very good.
The bad guy.
The bad guy.
They're perfectly converted.
So they've assimilated in many ways and translated what they have actually experienced through their life. And there are lots of other stories. For example, even today, in places like Fiji Islands, those families that have sort of come and they all know, they identify with each other, and people may have come in the same ship. So the kinship of people traveling the same ship from India to Fiji Island. So they develop this and they call each other even today as Jahaji Bais. That is brother, the ship.
Of the ship. Brothers of the ship.
Also, intermarriages happen.
Yes.
Breeding happened, but a kind of culture which is part of this, part of that, everything evolved.
Correct.
So it affected the entire.
This is interesting. Caribbean Ramayana. I like to read that if someone has written. Okay, so perhaps, yeah.
So this sugarcane, just to sum up, as I would say benign it is, though you said addictive, has a lot of story to tell. Besides its sweetness, the bitterness that it spread in the world.
The double-edged sword that I referred to, that we were discussing sometime earlier, I know it's also referred to some other crops, is that it is double-edged in the sense that it is so sweet, but it has so much of pain and agony that has brought in.
Since you mentioned that, I should mention the very interesting, at the same time sad fact that life of a slave, West African slave, was equated to the amount of sugar he is able to produce.
Just a minute. I think I would like to now recall here information I read about how the Indian British company was selling its sugar with an advertisement called, "You buy so much sugar from us, you save so many slaves, or you will be now saving so many slaves." Yeah, do you remember that?
The versions of that. But all of them are rested on this fact that an average slave, this is at the beginning of the slave trade. So as I mentioned, between 1500s and 1800. So this person was able to make half a ton of sugar for his entire life. Meaning if he worked his entire life, one guy was equated to be making half a ton of sugar.
Okay.
After 100 or 200 years, this sort of gracefully increased to 1 ton.
Okay.
So one slave was equated to about 1 ton of sugar. And then closer to 1800s, it was one slave to 2 tons of sugar.
Okay.
So the worth of a slave was just the weight of sugar.
This is exactly what I told. Britain or British people began to now transport sugar from India, telling that this is a sugar without slaves. And so if you buy so much sugar from us, you are saving so many slaves.
But by then, the slave trade had sort of ended. So they could not have really bargained too much on that.
Okay.
But the point is that this equation really is again sordid for the fact that I think if I remember the
Really
numbers
sordid,
right, between about 10 years, I think between 1690, no, 100 years or 10 years, I'm not too sure, but whatever the period is, Britain was importing through all of this cultivation 12 million metric tons of sugar. Now you can actually therefore equate, that means 12 million slaves if it was 1 ton per slave. Now that was what was then. After the slave trade, and today, if you now talk about modern Britain, they consume 12 million metric tons of sugar every year.
Every year. So that was over almost 100 years. Now every year they are consuming so much.
And of course, now no more slaves. So you see the transition. So it's very, very, I mean, we can sort of today sit back in our comfort and then talk about all of that. To just go into and step into the shoes or whatever of the slaves that were exported from West Africa, it changed the demography. History would say that this happened, but then most often the brutalities of history is only there to be read, not to be experienced.
If I can borrow a statement from a movie comment that I read long time back, the brutality that happened in the West Indies is reflecting not the bitterness or the sweetness of sugarcane is now converted into brutality in West Indies.
Correct.
The kind of brutality now that you mention, people were just tied to different, their hands and legs were tied, and they would be bullock, horse driven vehicles. They would be torn apart for defying the plantation laws, or if they tried to escape, and the whole village would be ordered, plantation labor would be ordered to witness this gory scene. There is a book by, I think, James Michener on the history of the Caribbean. It's full of such incidents where...
Similarly, the transportation of the slaves, I read somewhere that the people were put into the ships in such a way that
there's no air.
There is a recorded, documented history of a ship sailing to Mauritius with slaves, and with about 327 people. And the ship had a problem. And
some storm.
Okay. The white owners offloaded from the ship with the lifeboats and left the rest of them to perish.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
they were tied, chained. They won't even release them.
Yeah.
Alex Haley's book, Roots.
Yes.
You know,
absolutely.
It's so...